Hey, what's up, everybody? Gonna go through my models again today. Gonna go through NBA game by game. I'll have the recap on the next slide from yesterday. After that, I do have the NHL again. There's a full day of games for that. And college has like 138 games. So I have all the predictions on there. I'll stay on each slide for a little bit. Not gonna go through each of those games though, but we'll get on with the recap from yesterday. All right, so yesterday's recap, we had 4 games on the total that were within the range at some point during the day. So it would have depended on when you got it, as to if it would have hit the over under. 4 of the other 5 games did win. Got it on the New York total, the Chicago or Cleveland total, the Clippers total, and the Pistons total. Missed on the Jazz and Nets total. And then on the spread, the Pistons, Warriors, and Brooklyn Jazz were both within the range of the spread at some point during the day. Aside from that, we went 3 of 4. So took a dip on the spreads and did a little better on the totals yesterday. So we'll get into today's games. All right, first game we're going to get into is San Antonio going to Charlotte. The model does have Charlotte predicted to win 115 to about 111. Vegas currently has it at San Antonio between 3, 4.5, and the total at about 26 points. Model has, or 226, I mean. The model also has it at about 226 on the total. Just has the side flipped on this. So it's been pretty strong on Charlotte all week, 5, 7 points, but it did dip down. On day 6, it was down to 1 point, and it did go back up to 3.5 points with some whatever new information it got yesterday. San Antonio started out with all of the injuries and everything. Their defense was struggling, but it has been improving in the last 10 games. Charlotte also has been doing a lot better. Both have been playing pretty good defense. Charlotte's offense has been taking off more, but they live and die by that three. If their three isn't hitting, then that could be a little bit riskier to go for them on the money line. It does have San Antonio favored, so you can get them on the spread at plus points. I think that's actually probably pretty good. But the key on them is definitely if that three ball is falling. If it's not falling, they can fall behind pretty quick because they're still going to keep shooting them. Brandon Miller's been really hot. Con Canuple was really hot. I think he started 8 for 9 last game. I think that might have just been his 3 pointers. He he had a really good game. And like I said, Miller's been playing really hot. Ball, he's hit or miss. You never know, but I think they have a really good shot. The injuries looked pretty clean. Josh Green was probable for the Hornets, and Sochan was out again for San Antonio. Sochan's been out for quite a while. He's come back, at least played 1 game, but he's mostly been out. No head-to-head matchup in this. San Antonio's 15-9 on the road, 6-4 in their last 10, and 3-2 in their last 5. Charlotte is 9-13 at home, but they're 7-3 in their last 10, and they have won their last 5 straight games. So, like I said, Charlotte's been really hot recently. It's just going to depend on if they are hitting that three ball or not. On this, I would definitely lean Charlotte. The model likes Charlotte, and they're already getting plus points on that spread, so that looks pretty good to me. On the total, is not something I would probably take. The model's been really consistent. It's been between 226 and 228 all week, so it likes it in that range. But you're playing with fire with this Charlotte team and their 3 points. San Antonio and Charlotte both can play defense, so this could easily come on the underside. But if they get hot, and these teams start pushing the ball, the pace starts picking up, then I could see this going over as well. So this is on my favorite pick on this one is definitely Charlotte on the spread. All right, next game is going to be Atlanta and Indiana. This game started out on Indiana early in the week and has flipped to Atlanta. Atlanta was struggling. Indiana won a couple games, but overall, Atlanta has definitely been the better team in this season. Indiana has still been struggling with all of their injuries and everything. They did come back and win the other night against the Bulls, I believe it was, when they were down 14 points in the fourth quarter. So you never know what can happen. Indiana does have the better recent defense and better recent, or I mean, Atlanta has the better recent offense, but neither offense has been very good. Atlanta's is only right there at 110 on the rating. Indiana about 106. So both defenses are on the lower end, 115 to 116. So there's really not a huge edge on a lot of this. And then when you factor in injuries as well, Jalen Johnson and Rishisher were both questionable, and Okongwu is out today. So Atlanta's going to be hurting more on the injuries, recent injuries at least. Indiana's been hurting on that all year. So Vegas has it at Atlanta 1.5 points, and the total at about 233. The model has it as a push game, so it's right there with the Vegas on the fact that it's not really favoring anyone too much. And then it's at 228, so it is on the underside. I do think that Johnson being out will probably hurt Atlanta's offense a little bit, but that may also make Alexander Walker start shooting more threes, be more aggressive. When he gets hot, he puts up more points than anyone on that team, I think. So, and he had a rougher game last game against Houston, only had 3 threes after having 5 in the previous 2 games before that. So I'm sure he's going to be shooting the ball with the injuries. It'll probably go into him more. Dyson Daniels tends to distribute the ball more than he likes to shoot it. If he's open, he'll take it, but he's definitely trying to find someone to give the ball to. So on this game, I think I would probably still lean. You know what? I would probably lean Indiana with some points. Johnson being out could definitely affect Atlanta, and they are already a very streaky offense. So if they struggle to put up points and Indiana keeps this close, then they might close out because, like I said, they came back from double digits in about 6 minutes last game. So that potential is there, and Atlanta may be without their star. If Johnson plays, Atlanta, that's definitely the team I would go with. If Johnson sits with Okongwu already out, it definitely becomes more of a push game for me. All right, so next game is going to be New Orleans going to Philly. The model on day 7 likes Philly by 2 points, 116 to 114. Vegas has the line at about 9 or 10, and the total at about 232, 233. So the model has it at 230. So the model is on the New Orleans side. It is on the underside. I did not see Embiid or George on the injuries. All I saw was Quentin Grimes. It's probable. So it looks like Philly's going to be pretty healthy. I think I would agree with Vegas more here on the spread. I will see it more than 2 points, especially with New Orleans. They didn't look very good against Memphis yesterday, and Memphis has already been struggling. So now they're going to a team that didn't play yesterday, is looking healthier, and has been looking better when they're healthy. So I would lean towards Philly. That's a pretty decent sized spread, but I think they can probably cover it. You can probably buy it down to about 5 or 6, make it a lot safer. On the over-under, I'm not entirely sure. Offensive ratings both right at 115. Phillies is at 115. New Orleans is a little better at 112. So if they give up just their averages, you're already looking at about that 230. I feel like Philly may be scoring a little bit more on New Orleans today. Maxey might get going a little more on a more tired defense. Embiid, New Orleans has a lot of young centers, so he should have a pretty good game. He's already been playing really well. I would probably look for his props if you're trying to do any of that. But the model started out on Philly, 4 points, dropped down. It's been right around 1 or 2 since day 4, mostly on New Orleans, and then flipped back to Philly today. New Orleans scored about 114 yesterday, so it ended up dropping them down. They had been scoring a little bit more recently. But like I said, on this one, I think you're looking more at the fact that Philly is healthier. New Orleans just played yesterday. The totals, like I said, I'd probably go over on this, maybe buy it down a few points. It started higher in the week, 236, and it dropped down to about this 228, 230. So it did have a quick fluctuation back up to 234. So it seems like when it's bouncing up, it's going to the overside more than dropping off. So I think I would probably lean on the over. Like I said, maybe take it down some, and then I would lean on the Philly side on the spread, even though the model is on the New Orleans side. All right, next game is going to be Chicago going to Miami. These two just played in Chicago the other night. Miami won 116-113. Then Miami also won the first game. They won 143-107. So a 36-point win there. Right now, Vegas has it at about a 5 to 6 point favorite for Miami and 235, 236 on the total. The model likes Chicago 118, 117. So 1 point. It's right there on the same total as uh, the line, pretty much on half a point under at 235. So I think I would lean on the underside because of injuries on this game. Giddey, Smith, White, all questionable. Vucevic out. All those are big playmakers. So unless you think Bazelis, Herter, Dosunmu, Williams can all come in, step in, fill those roles, and keep up that same pace, my thought is if they don't play, Miami is probably going to get a lead and try to save a little energy for tomorrow. It seems like Chicago is probably trying to rest people and just steal that last game tomorrow and not lose all four to Miami this year. So in the NBA so far, it seems like trends have been going. So Miami had lost all three to Orlando. Went into the Orlando game the other day with Orlando losing four straight by 14 or more, and Miami still lost. So with that being said, I'm on the Miami side here. I feel like Miami's going to keep it going. They have the better injury report right now. Just still Hero. Mitchell is questionable. Both teams have questionable defenses. 116.3 recently on the averages or on the ratings. And then Chicago 121 and Miami 115 on the offensive rating. So really good offenses, questionable defenses would typically lean me to go on the over side. But the fact that we do have the injuries here, the last game only got to 229 with more players playing. I like this one to stay under. I think the best matchup on this, if those players do not play and you can still get it at this line, I would take Miami on the line or on the spread. Because if all four of those players are going to be out for Chicago, then I don't see them having too much of a chance with all of their backups. Buzelis has had some pretty good games. Herter's had some pretty good games, but Miami has a lot of players that can play really well. Chicago is 8-14 on the road, 5-5 in their last 10, 2-3 in their last 5, and they've lost their last 3. So Miami's 15-8 at home, so they do play better at home, and they just won in Chicago last game. They're 6-4 in their last 10, 3-2 in their last 5. So playing better right now. Chicago's been playing a little bit better, but they've still been getting beat. So, like I said, on this one, Miami spread is probably my favorite if those players sit. And I'm on the underside if they sit as well. If they do all play, then I think the over is probably the best bet on this game. All right, next game is going to be Minnesota at Memphis. As I said, Memphis played yesterday. They played New Orleans and lost. Minnesota is coming in on a 3-game win streak. They're 13-11 on the road, 5-5 in their last 10, and 3-2 in their last 5. So they were struggling before this recent 3-game streak, but Memphis is 9-14 at home, 2-8 in their last 10. They've lost their last 5. They have the worst injury report right now too. Aldama's questionable. They still have Morant and Edey out. So Minnesota looked pretty clean. They still had Terrence Shannon on the injury report, but he's been out, I think, all season, at least for a couple months. So they're looking pretty good. Winning 3 straight. They beat Oklahoma City just really bad the other night. So Memphis won the only game they won 116-110 at home on December 17th. So they do have the head-to-head win. The model has been a little confused. I think a lot of that is just because of some of the games that Minnesota lost before they got hot. Minnesota's had some questionable losses. They've had some games where they've, like the Utah game when they got blown out that one game, that just didn't make any sense. And I think the model is still trying to figure them out a little bit from all of that. Recent games, though, Minnesota has a 115.4 offensive rating, 107 defensive rating. So they're playing really well on both sides of the ball. Memphis 110, almost 111 on the offensive, 113 on the defensive. They are playing okay on both sides of the ball. Not great on either side. And when they're coming up against a team that is playing really well on both sides, especially with the the injuries that they've been having to face. If Aldama is not good to go, that's going to be a big injury for Memphis, who's already down and on the second day of a back-to-back. So I'm more on Minnesota's side. I'm going to go against the model here. I like Minnesota to cover the spread. I would expect it to probably grow throughout the day because with a lot of the ones they've had in double digits recently, I'm surprised that one's only 7. And a lot of that, like I said, could be because of some of these questionable games Minnesota's had in the last month, 2 months, whatever. The total is at 229, 231 in Vegas. The model likes 234. I think a lot of this is going to be if Memphis can score. If they come out and they're just really slow after playing yesterday with all of their injuries as well, then Minnesota is probably going to, even if they score a lot, they can probably keep it under just by holding Memphis down. But I think the total is a little more questionable. I think you might want to wait on that one for a live bet and see if Memphis can score in the first quarter. Because, their scoring is going to be key to that. If they come out flat, then I think this game, Minnesota's going to get a lead, and they're going to hold it, and they might pull the starters in the fourth quarter. Seems like it could be that type of game. All right, last game is going to be the Texas matchup. We got Dallas going to Houston. My model likes Houston winning 115, almost 116 to 111. So it likes Houston by about 5 points. Vegas has them at about a 10 to 11 point spread. I think this is another one that my model is just not. As you can see, it's growing on the spread. It started at Houston about 1. Houston had a couple games that they had lost in the last 10. So it started Houston a little closer. Dallas has been playing a lot better, but it has been growing the last couple of days. It's gone up to about 4 to 5. I think Houston can cover the spread. That's a very large spread, though. So I can see Dallas perhaps covering it. The spread would not be my favorite on this one. The model does like a 227 on the total, and Vegas has it about 221, 222. These teams have played 3 times before. Houston won 110 to 102 at home. That was back early November on the 3rd. A month later, they played in Dallas. Dallas won 122 to 109 on December 6th. And then earlier this month, on the 3rd, Dallas also won at home 110 to 104. So 2 games have gone under, right there in the mid 2 teens. And then 1 game did go over at 231. So the game in Houston did stay under. The middle game is the one that went over, and then they were under again the last time. Recently, Dallas's offense is about 113. Houston's offensive rating has dropped down to about 110, though. So recently, Houston has not been scoring near as many points, but their defense is still really good, 107. Dallas's defense is a little more questionable, 113. So I think really you're just going to be looking at, do you think these teams can get into a shootout? Do you think Cooper Flag can start making points? Do you think Klay Thompson might be able to get hot? Is Jabari Smith going to hit from outside? Is KD going to start getting hot? Recently, a lot of these Houston games just have not been high scoring at all. So I would probably lean on the underside. The spread, I just don't know, because Dallas has been playing pretty decent. Dallas is 5-14 on the road, so they're not good away from their home. That could be an issue, but they're 5-5 in their last 10, 2-3 in their last 5. But I just feel like they've been playing a lot better recently. Cooper Flag put up a huge game the other night and they lost. So it's not necessarily that they're not performing; they're just getting beat still. Doesn't mean they're getting beat by 11 points. So in the first game, Houston won 110 to 108. They only won by 8, and then they've lost twice. So for 10 points, I think I'm leaning on the Dallas side. This just isn't one of my favorite games. I think this would be a better prop game, to be perfectly honest. With all the players they have, there's a lot of really good rebounders. Amen Thompson for rebounding, Şengün rebounding, assists, KD points, Jabari rebounds, Flag points, Klay Thompson threes. There's a lot of stuff that looks like it's probably going to be pretty good on the prop side, depending on the lines. Haven't looked at any lines yet, but as far as the game goes, I could see this. I think this is going to be a lot closer than what Vegas has. I just really do. All right, here are the NHL predictions. Like I said, there is a full day of games. There are 14 being played today. The model ranks it in confidence of highest to lowest for the day. So 94 today is not 94 yesterday. It's just 94 today. So it is the most confident game today is Edmonton with Minnesota. Minnesota on the road, I guess, is a little bit better for Edmonton, but Minnesota's actually been pretty good. So likes that one. The Islanders over Nashville. Detroit over Colorado. Colorado's been struggling a little recently, so that should actually be a pretty good game. Hopefully Detroit doesn't get blown out. And then it goes down 3 medium confidence. Got Vegas, Florida, and Carolina. And then the rest of those are lower confidence. It just means that the model's not, for one, the spread is normally not as big, or there's been more flips in who it thinks is going to win because it's not really sure on the favorite team. So look at the size of the spread. That's what the decimal point is in the day 1 to day 7 movement. So see how it's moving. Try to find one that's moving mostly in the same direction. That's the way I try to go at it. If it's something that's fluctuating from a higher number to a lower number to a higher number to a lower number, then the model is a little less confident on where it thinks it's going to be. If you can find something that's a little more steady, then that's normally the things I like to go. Like even the Carolina game. It had it at a push for the first 3 games, went to 0.1 for 2 days, then 0.4 for 2 days. There's been a steady increase in Carolina all week long. Carolina is a team I would definitely look at today. All right, so here is the first page of the 138 college basketball games today. I do have the pick there and the confidence. The confidence is going to be just the confidence on the day. So the most confident, the model pick of the day is Miami of Ohio at Northern Illinois. Well, Northern Illinois at Miami of Ohio winning. And that is just for the money line. If you look at the day 1 to day 7, you'll see the predicted spreads 18, 19, 19, 17. So those are the predicted spreads of the games, but the confidence is confident that the team will actually win the game, not that it will cover the spread. So it is ordered highest confidence, lowest confidence. So here we have 100 down to 87. We'll go ahead. We'll start looking at some of the next pages. All right, here's the next page of college. So getting to a little bit closer spreads, we got some down there that are in the single digits. Top one still double digits all week long. If you look at that George Washington game, it started double digits. It dropped to 9. So not a huge drop, but that's the type of thing where I start looking more at, is the underdog perhaps going to cover? And I do that more if the favorite isn't predicted to have a spread that's right around that same. So say George Washington's predicted to win by the 11 that it was showing. Now they're showing it 9. I'm going to think more can Fordham cover that spread and look at it there. So down at St. Joseph's, it started at 10. It dipped. It went back up. Dipped. So a game like that, I'm looking at, and I'm going to look between like the 5 and 10 range maybe. Is there a good spread I like there? Do I think they can cover it? Look at some past games. So these are all high and starting into the medium confidence. And this page will all be full of medium confident picks from the model, going from 76 down to 64. A lot of these will be in about the 5 to 10 spread range. So like I said, you're going to want to compare it to the actual Vegas spread. I don't have that listed on here with it. So see how close some of them are. And the ones that are closest are the ones I would probably try to look at the most. And definitely, I have all of the smaller schools on here. I can tell you that the smaller schools, it is not as easy for the model to figure out. Bigger schools, when they play down in competition, when they go back to their normal competition, it doesn't seem to affect it as much as when the smaller schools go up in competition and try to come back. Seems to have a harder time figuring out those smaller conference schools. So this page will also be all medium confident, 63 down to 55. Like I said, these are all on the day. So it's always going to have a lot of high, or so many high, a lot of medium, and then anything on the bottom half is going to be low. It doesn't necessarily mean that the model is super confident on something just because it's medium. So you're going to want to dig into these games. Anything you take, don't just take the model for what it is. A lot of these games are, again, at about the 2 up to about 7-point range or whatever. So all still favorites, not flipping sides. Well, I don't know that they're the actual favorites, but it's not flipping sides at all, going back and forth. It's just a little bit of adjustments in the spreads, and then the spreads are getting smaller as you're going down. Now we're getting into the bottom half, so all of these will be low confidence. Like I said, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to happen. Some of these will hit, some of these will not hit. That's just how it's going to be. But the spreads are getting closer, or they're fluctuating more, is what's going to be happening as we get farther down. And we still have more games going because there are 138. So maybe some of these games are the ones you want. I don't know. You might want to pause the video if so. And I promise we are getting to the end. Like I said, you might want to pause it on some of these last videos if you want to dig into it a little more. I still got 2 more pages to go. All right, next to last page, I do have the Texas-Oklahoma matchup down there at the bottom. So decent matchup. That's the only decent-sized schools I see on this one. Like I said, the model does have a harder time figuring out a lot of these smaller schools. And this is going to be the last page. So going down to the lowest confidence, some flipping back and forth between schools on here, and just really low spreads. So if you're using any of these, like I said, make sure you're doing your own research, checking things out. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments for me. And good luck.